and welcome to Coffee Break Blogging, where you'll learn to grow and monetize your blog in short, tactical installments you can use right away. Now here's the next episode in our series. Welcome back to another installment of Coffee Break Blogging, where this isn't just another podcast, it's a full course on building an online business based around your blog from scratch. My name is David Risley, and if you want to catch up with us from the beginning, go over to coffeebreakblogging.com and you'll have the full archives at your disposal. Okay, so let's get into our topic for today, and that is a sales page. Specifically, we're going to talk and give you a grand bird's eye view of the 10 components of a converting sales page. Now, what this episode is not going to be for you is a full breakdown of copywriting and sales conversions and all that. We couldn't possibly cover that in one episode if I tried. But what I'm going to do is kind of walk you through the 10 big components, the 10 big things to keep in mind when you're putting together a sales page to sell your product, okay? So let's jump right in because there's 10 of them and it's going to take us a little bit to do. The first thing that we need to concentrate on is our headline. Now, all sales pages need to have a headline. Even if you're going to be doing a sales video and not doing a written thing, you're still going to want to have a headline, probably on top of the video or on the still slide, like the still picture of the video before they actually hit the play button. But you need to have that headline. Now, the important parts of the headline are three different things. The first one is that you want your headline to make a promise. You want it to make a promise of what they're going to get out of it, okay? The second one is that you want it to demand their attention. And I'm not talking about like, hey, pay attention to me. I mean, we're not going to do that. It's just by the very nature of the headline, usually by using strong curiosity, you are going to get them to really want to pay attention to them. You're going to say something in that headline that they're going to be like, wow, I want to at least satisfy my curiosity and figure out what this is all about. You're kind of opening a loop for them, and they're going to be like, what the hell is that? Think cliffhangers, think watching like an old school episode of 24 or something, and how that episode will just end, and you're like, oh, I need to know now what's going to happen in the next episode, which has led to many of us binge watching that thing, right? Well, that's what you want your headline to do, because the function of that headline is going to be to make a promise and get them to want to continue reading. Now, the third thing that headline needs to do is pre-qualify who your message is meant for. And by that, I mean it needs to attract the people who would be part of your target market and purposely alienate those who are not. You don't want people who are not right for your offer to bother with your sales page. You just want them to go away, really. So you need to have something in the headline that makes it immediately clear that who it is for, and that if people are not part of your target market, they might see your headline and be like, I don't really care, and they back off. And that's exactly what you want them to do. Okay, so those are the three important things that your headline should do: make a promise, demand their attention, usually by sparking their curiosity in a big, strong way, and then also thirdly is immediately pre-qualify who your message is for. So here's what you do is you go out and study a bunch of headlines. You should be collecting headlines like an Evernote or something on any sales pages you see, even blog post headlines, and be constantly swiping those things into a file that you can go back and reference later when you're creating your own headlines, because writing really good headlines does not come naturally to most of us, okay? It just doesn't. And so the way that you're going to get those nice headlines is to model other people's headlines. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's done all the time, even by the pros, okay? All right, the second component of your sales page should be the opening text. Now, this is what's going to go right underneath your headline. It's the first little piece of text that they're going to read. Now, there's a few things that you want to keep in mind here on this. First of all, is that you just got their attention on the headline. Now, the function of the opening text is to draw their attention in further and make them want to continue reading. Now, the one way to do that is to open some loops. And what I mean by that is you want to set up those cliffhangers. You want to set up those mysteries as to what's coming and make them want to fill in that gap. okay? It's kind of like creating a mystery, and then the human nature, the human mind is designed to, we want to plug mysteries. We want to like solve mysteries. That's what we do. And so you're going to set up a few little mysteries, a few little like empty gaps in your opening text about what's coming. And that is going to make them want to continue reading, okay? So it's kind of like that bridge between the headline and what's to come on your sales page. You also want to make it clear that what they're about to see is going to get them closer to their desired result, okay? Make that very clear. You want the sales page itself to be an instructional piece. Now, obviously, it is going to be ultimately designed to make an offer to them, but you want them to learn something as they go through it, to get some knowledge shed on their problem, on what the problem might be for them, okay, and why they're experiencing it. And so it should be pretty easy to, in that opening text, to make it clear that what they're about to see is going to get them closer to their desired result. Okay, let's jump into the next component. Now, this is not something you're just going to do in a little segment of your sales letter, like a nice, beautiful little outline. This is something that's going to kind of be laced probably throughout the entire sales message. And that is your story, your background story, specifically the story of why you're here, what brought you to this point, and ultimately why your offer exists. Now, what you'll find many people do is they will go and tell their story about the struggles that they had and then how they arrived at something that worked for them, and then the difference between now and back then. It's kind of like that traditional hero story. They're almost like the reluctant hero, like you were dragged into it, you were forced to deal with it, and you talk about those low points, and ultimately that transition into where things stand today. And now these stories are what's going to glue everything together, because people tend to remember stories really well. We work really well with these things. And so it also provides a big reason why behind your offer. And that's pretty big, because, products can just blend in out there, but when they're backed up by a really solid story that's got some emotion in it and some real low points and the higher points and discovery and all the things that you would expect in a fiction book, to be quite honest with you, but it's your story, okay? And these things really brand your product and position your product. So I would encourage you to try to tell this like a story. Now, you might need to massage it a little bit, and I'm not saying that by way of lying. You never, ever, ever lie in a sales page. Ever, 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 okay? But there's absolutely nothing wrong with downplaying certain things and upplaying certain things. And it's probably going to happen, okay? I write about blogging and online business. Well, it's not as if my entire life revolves around this topic. And so for that reason, obviously I'm going to leave out certain things that just don't have anything to do with it, okay? And I'm going to do what I can to turn my backstory with regard to blogging and online business into a story that actually flows in a way that I can tell it, okay? So it's something that's going to take some practice. It's not something that's just going to happen for you. What I could say is go out and look at other people's sales letters and see how they put together those stories, and see which ones resonate the best with you, because that you can actually use as motivation for how you structure your own stories. Okay. Let's jump into number 4 here of the components of a sales page, and that is authority and credibility. Okay. In other words, why should they listen to you? Now, some people just come straight out the gate and be like, here's why you should listen to me. And you can certainly do that, but it would be a lot more smooth if that was just kind of peppered throughout the entire sales message. In fact, it should even be part of your backstory that you tell. But you want to build in and make clear why you have credibility on this topic, why they should listen to you. Okay, why you have authority. If you've got other opinion leaders in your market saying good things about you, you can bring that to the table. But it should go beyond that. It should be about results people that you've worked with in the past, and bring those things and work them into the overall story, okay? So this is not something where you're going to have a section on your sales page that just says, well, you should listen to me. This is something that's probably going to be worked in to your backstory and into the presentation of your offer, okay? Number 5 is subheads. Now, this is specifically for if you're doing a written sales message, okay? Subheadings. They serve the exact same function on a sales page as they do on a blog post. You see, many people are not going to read your page beginning to end. Most people are not. What they're going to do is they're going to scroll, okay? They're going to scroll. Now, when they scroll, what's going to jump out to them visually is going to be the subheadlines, okay? Those subheadlines are going to kind of be the stop points as they're scrolling, and they're going to scan those things. And then what they're going to do is, based on the subheadlines, they're going to make a judgment call on whether your page is going to be interesting to them, okay? That's what's going to happen. So what you want to do is you want people to read your subheadlines, and you want them to think, man, this is really interesting. It makes me wonder what the heck happened. And then they're going to go up and they're going to actually start reading it. That's what you want them to do. You want them to read the subheadlines and go back and really read it because of the subheadlines. Because the subheadlines, I have a hard time saying that one over and over, but they do a really good job of sparking curiosity, making people wonder what happens in between. And that is going to get them to read it, okay? Subheadlines are very, very important, and you should not take them lightly. And that goes for your regular old blog post as well. All right, the next component of your sales page should be the testimonials. Now, the thing about the testimonials is that it's one thing just to have somebody saying awesome things about you, okay? It's another to have testimonials that actually directly address things that your prospect is going to have on their head, on their mind, okay? The testimonials are there in order to reduce anxiety about your product. And they're not thinking in terms of, is this person a good person? They're not thinking that. What they're thinking is probably things more like, is this going to work for my situation? Is this going to be really hard for me? Am I going to have the time to do it? But they're also going to be thinking about, can I trust you? They may not know who you are. And when you're asking for money, they really want to know if they can trust you. And so the best thing to do with your testimonials is to have people saying things that directly address those types of questions. So if your prospect is wondering if this is going to work in their situation, put a testimonial in there from somebody that is going to address that maybe they had skepticism on whether it was going to work. And, oh my gosh, I was shocked. It actually did work. That kind of thing. Now, never make this stuff up. You don't invent testimonials. I know people have done that. You can go and ask existing customers for testimonials, and you can even ask them specific questions in a survey that would be designed to elicit answers to these types of questions. Before you enrolled in this, did you think this was going to be really, really hard? And then they go, oh yeah, I was struggling with this and this. And then you can ask the follow-up question is, well, what is life like now for you after going through X, Y, and Z? And you could put it together into a testimonial. Now, of course, get their approval for that. You don't want to take survey feedback and just throw it on there as a testimonial. You want to ask them, hey, is it okay if I use this? But that's a way where you can kind of guide people into the kind of testimonials that are going to work really well for your marketing, is by asking them the right questions. Okay? So that's testimonials. That's definitely something you need to have in your sales page. The next one is proof that your product actually works. Kind of duh, right? People want to know, is it going to work? Especially if they're in a market kind of like mine, which is kind of jaded. I mean, people have tried things and they just didn't work. Now, I have my theories as to why some of those things didn't work, but it doesn't really matter. That's the way that prospects are feeling. And they just want to know if your stuff's going to work. So what you want to do is, first of all, realize that people are going to come into that with a question. So it should be integrated into the story, the background story of your offer to begin with. have things in there that clearly shows that it worked, okay? But better from that would be to show that it worked for other people, didn't only work for you. And so this is where you could bring things like case studies, yes, testimonials, before and after type things. I mean, if you're in a market that photographic before and after works really well, like the fitness market, then beautiful, bring it to the table. But many markets are not like that. So you can do it with written. If you can get people to talk about things in video, that would be great. And you just want to show people on the outside that your product actually gets results. Very important component. Okay. Number 8, the 8th component we're going to address here is the offer itself. This is the actual product, including the price tag. Okay. Now keep in mind here with the offer, and there's a lot we could go into here, but keep in mind that you're not selling a big bag of stuff. Okay. It's not about, okay, this thing contains 4 modules and it contains 10 plus hours of content and transcripts. No, because people don't care about the big bag of crap. Okay. What you're really selling with your offer is the solutions and the outcomes. That's what you're selling. You're selling the outcome of the product. So what you want to do is you want to explain every detail of what your product is going to actually do for them. And then you also want to show them how much that is going to be worth to them, both financially and emotionally. Okay? So translate those benefits into real world concrete things that they will recognize. Okay? It doesn't matter what your transcripts look like. What it matters is what are they going to be able to do with them, okay? And what is the overall value of your product in terms of financial benefit? And this could be indirect. I mean, if your product is not going to be something that makes the money, that's fine. But the indirect benefits of your product could easily translate into things that you could potentially include a monetary tag to. I mean, if your product is saving them time, well, what do they value their time at? And you can just kind of like assign a monetary value to these things, okay? It could definitely work, but you can also go into the emotional benefits as well. If this is a product which is going to alleviate a lot of hassle, a lot of frustration, a lot of worry and anger and stress, what would be the value of that to them? And I'm not necessarily talking about money here. I'm talking about emotional benefit, saving them a lot of gray hair, that kind of thing. You want to really make it clear, okay? Now, again, part of the offer too is that you want to show them what they're going to be getting. So there is going to be that point where you're going to outline, what they're going to get, but that shouldn't be the whole gist of the offer. It really should concentrate more on the benefits of it from a financial and emotional and otherwise perspective, but as a logistic to deal with, just kind of show them what they're going to be getting and why it translates into those things. You also want to stack the value on top of them. You really want them to think, man, I'm getting a massive amount of value here, because they're going to see that price tag, and you want them to realize that price is very, very fair. And in fact, many people go for like a 10x value factor when they put together offers, that they want the customer to feel like they're getting 10 times more value than what you're asking them to pay. Okay. So if you are going to sell some cheap ebook for $10, well, you want to make it so that the value they're getting out of it would be at least $100. Okay. And it just goes from there, in the more expensive products as well. So that's just the old 10x value standard to assign to your offer. Okay. Now, the 9th component here of the sales page would be risk reduction. Okay. This is where the old guarantee comes in. Now, we see standard money back guarantees all the time, and that is something that you should do as a bare minimum, is have a standard 30-day or 60-day money-back guarantee. Now, part of that you want to do is you want to emphasize how easy this is going to be to do. You want to make it clear they're not going to have to jump through any hoops or do any weird stuff. If they want their money back, they should be able to get it, okay? Simple as that. You want to balance the risk in their favor as well, as much as possible. Now, You could do that by way of just how simple it's going to be to get their money back. But many people they get a little bit more creative with their guarantees, and they actually really balance it in favor of the customer. I've seen some people say, I will refund your money plus interest, which is kind of an interesting way of saying it. It just basically means you're going to give them back a little bit more than they actually paid. I've seen some people do like a 110% money back guarantee, which would be probably just another way of saying a plus interest guarantee. And it can seem really risky. It could seem really risky to say, I'm going to give you back more money than what you actually paid me. And a lot of people who are first starting out, they really do stress out about these guarantees. They tend to get into that scarcity mindset and think people are going to take advantage of it and stuff, but realize that the benefits of these kind of guarantees way outweigh the potential risk. And I've never, ever heard of a case where people lost money on the guarantee, okay? Generally speaking, the increase in your conversion rates on these more creative guarantees is going to give you a lot more back than the few refunds that you're going to get. So it's not something to stress out about. You need to concentrate more on earning customers, not trying to prevent problems, because there's very few people that are actually going to do that. Okay, so that's the risk reduction area. And then lastly, the last component, because this episode is getting a little long, is the close. How do you close it off? Well, obviously, you're going to give them a big fat call to action button, add to cart, something like that. But you're also going to have a little bit of text around that directly tells them to go and buy. This is, you've already led up to this point. You've made it very clear that this is going to solve their problems. And now you need to take the position of being the authority and say, go and take action now. It's for your own good. Go and do this now. I want to work with you. I want to solve this problem for you. Another element of the close is going to be the PS. You always need to have a PS because PSs do work. It's very traditional on a sales page, but it's for a reason. Think what I said earlier when it comes to the subheads. A lot of people scroll. Okay, a lot of people are going to scroll all the way to the bottom of your sales page, and they're going to see the price, and they're going to see all these things. They're going to see the subheadlines, but they're going to see your PS as well. And so the most common thing to do with your PS is to, in very short form, reiterate the primary benefits of the product and tell them, make it very clear that this thing is going to solve their problem. It's basically a very simple synopsis restatement of the sales page that is right up above there. Okay, very simple, and it will almost always increase your conversion rate. It's not going to be night and day, but this is something that people pretty much always do on their sales page, and it's just a good best practice. Okay, so hopefully that was a good overall bird's eye grand tour of a sales page that actually makes sales. I hope this was helpful to you. If you'd like to get some help actually creating this thing for yourself, then jump on over into the Blog Monetization Lab. We have an action plan on the agenda that's going to bring all this to the table in a checklist style format to help you create it. As of this recording, that action plan does not exist, but it is on the agenda. But also in the meantime, you can jump into the community and ask for all the feedback you want. And I would be happy to help you actually craft your offer, okay? So you could jump into the community at blogmonetizationlab.com, and I look forward to talking to you inside, okay? Thanks so much for listening. If you're finding these episodes valuable, please head on over to blogmarketingacademy.com/iTunes and post a star rating and review, and I would be highly appreciative of that, okay? Talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of Coffee Break Blogging. If you like what you heard here today, we have something awesome we'd love to send you. It's called the Blog Conversion Guide, and it has 9 tweaks you can make to your blog in order to increase your conversion rate to get more opt-ins and sales. As one of our listeners, we'd love to give you access to this guide absolutely free. You can get your copy right now by going to coffeebreakblogging.com. Again, go to coffeebreakblogging.com to get your copy, and we'll see you next time.